feeling like I'm Akademiks. Can't ride
It ain't nothing, man. They still gotta let me free. I ain't did nothing.
Damn.
Closer to my.
Yeah, that shit's sad, chap. Wow. Crazy. Hey, I did have an interesting conversation today. And I wanna get y'all opinion on this. I wanna get y'all opinion, chat. Because you know, well, let me just lay it out and then you tell me. So Wack called me today, and Wack was extremely irate. He called me today. And usually me and Wack personal conversations I don't even bring on here, but I do want to bring it on here because I understand the overall context of what he was saying to me. Wack called me and he was just like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been a brother to you. You've been a brother to me. And I said, yeah, of course. That's been our relationship for a long time. And he said, I don't like the narrative you're running on me. And he then said, because at first I'm confused. I'm like, narrative, I'm running on him. He said, listen, you got people saying things about me that is, number one, not true, but they're using things that you've said to kind of piggyback off. And he's like, if you're my brother, why would you do that? And let me tell you, if you've ever had a conversation with Wack when he's upset, you barely get a word in. And I definitely wanted to clear something up if it was ever put out that so let me give you the backdrop. And I said the exact same thing to Wack. Again, it was like an hour conversation. I barely got a word in. I promise you, I barely got a word in. Okay, Wack. I've never seen Wack this upset. But Wack was blaming me for this narrative about him, which I ain't gonna lie. I was like Googling while I'm on the phone with him because I'm like, what narrative niggas got going on? And apparently people are saying A, B, C, and D. But I think he's blamed me for it spurring from the conversation we had. And I want to be very transparent. The conversation we had where after I heard that Adam got not pulled in by the feds, but they went to his house and said, what up? And they said, yo, could we get this, whatever? I said, yo, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if the police try to talk to Wack. That's pretty much all I said. And I kind of, and I'm going to tell you why. And I was trust me, I'm on the phone with Wack. I'm trying to get these thoughts. I'm trying to tell him, bro, I wouldn't, if I really thought like, you're whatever, I'm not bringing it online. I'm just thinking out loud like I think about out loud with every case. We just talked about the Diddy case. And I'm like, you know what? Yo, I'm expecting to hear some more co-conspirators. If we don't see co-conspirators, they might be testifying against it. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm using my educated brain, right? We cover a lot of cases. A lot of times we could make reasonable deductions. Now, for me, when I said that was a reasonable deduction. Now, I'm going to also give you some more details. If you guys watch the Vlad podcast, I said a little bit more about it. I never really ever meant to talk about this because I really don't think this is content. I do not think the feds' indictments, RICO, is content. Okay? This is something that I would probably never mention. But I did use my experience to kind of as a foundation to say, I understand how they probably came at Adam and what they're going to want. Yeah, I remember I broke this whole down. I said, this is what they're going to want from Adam. Again, I've never fully told my situation because to me, nothing to do with police in that serious sense, even if I'm an innocent civilian, it's not content. Okay? especially when you have friends that might be indicted or are indicted. Now, let me get to the so I'm going to jump in between where I got my thoughts from, but also how Wack is seeing it. Apparently, and I did my Googles and research today. People have taken the conversation that I had with Wack and they've made it to a point where they're like, by the way, yes, Wack came across very angry, whatever, but you gotta realize Wack's a street dude. He don't like nobody mentioning his name with police. That's a fact. He don't. I'm a civilian. Also, I've had experience where they did try to come talk to me. Or they try to come get some shit from me, right? When I had the conversation with Wack multiple times on stream, him coming off irate and seemingly defensive, and I remember Adam 22 when they did the Adam and Wack show, he brought it up there, but then it spurred a narrative that means Wack is guilty, right, of either a few things. The police came and talked to him, and he's now spooked because he thinks he's going to get indicted. Number two, and I think this is the most prevalent narrative, that he's the police, right? Because if they don't come to talk to you, that means you're working with them. And what other narratives? Number three is that he's like, I don't know. I think it's a combination of number one and number two, right? And I think those narratives have been running wild. And I think those narratives, you know, again, Wack does care about his integrity, even though, of course, everybody do their content, blah, blah, blah. But he cares about his integrity. He's not fond of negative, or not necessarily negative. He's not fond of a untrue narrative that goes against him and his integrity. So while we were talking today, because I was saying to him, I'm like, Wack, I never said you're the police. I've also never said, without a doubt, because he was like, yo, do you think the police came and talked to me? We can make a bet. He basically denied it. And I even told him, I said, Wack, you know when I asked you that question on live, all you had to do is just say, no, they never came. You got so defensive, people made up, like, it's like you're watching two people talk, you're like, oh no, that triggered him. I know what's up with that. If that triggered him, that means there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Do you get what I'm saying? So, after the conversation, and by the way, I understand narratives because narratives has been, I've been on the worst sides of sometimes narratives that I tried to clear up 20 million times, but nobody gave a fuck. And of course, I've been on sometimes the good side of narratives, but whatever. Like, you usually care about the bad. Now, I only say that to say this. After the call with Wack today, and I keep telling you, not everything is content, right? And I wasn't going to, I could have sat on the phone with Wack and be like, yo, Wack, I thought, yo, you do content on everybody else when they're doing, when these cases happen. Why can't niggas ask you that question for, no, I get it. As I said, he was extremely, I've never seen Wack that upset, honestly, truth be told. And as someone who I consider as a brother, and someone who I think has been very benevolent to me in all types of ways, it is, I even told him, I said, no, I'll make sure I clear, I'm gonna clear it up whenever I get on live stream, that whatever conversation me and you had on here, yes, I'm using my deduction to say I think this could have happened, but it's not to help whatever people are trying to make out about Wack being the police, Wack being, what else have you said? oh, Wack is talking to the none of that shit. So, and then the last thing I took away from that conversation is that there does become a time, and you know, again, I barely got a word in with Wack about this. Remember, you just going off. There does become a time where you become too close to a particular situation to do what you normally do about everything else. And I think if you ask me, just being honest, I think that's kind of where Wack is with this situation. Not that he has nothing to do with it. Not that, you know, he's about to be indicted. Not that he's a fucking, what do you call it again? Not that he's working with the police or whatever niggas be trying to say. But it's the same reason why if y'all ask me like, yo, Act, well, you talk about other people's cases. Why don't you talk about this? I would love to talk about it. It's an ongoing court case that I have a lawyer for. As soon as it's over, I'll talk about it all day, all night. And that's kind of what I felt getting off the phone with him today. I said, I can't tell him what to do. But I do think that this Big U situation, loose cannon, brick baby, what Wack is the most popular person out of everybody who just got locked up. A lot of people are looking at it from a content space. Like, they're taking little things. Like, I think Wack said he ran with Big U, but he clarified to me today on the phone. He said, bro, me and Big U have never done anything remotely close to anything that he's been accused of. Never. It's night and day. Anything that he's been accused of, I've never been accused of by people who know me. Not internet sleuths, not these other people. I've never been accused of. And that's what I took away from it. I said, I'm like, I think these narratives are almost inevitable because he's too close to the situation. He's the biggest name. Like, do you want to talk? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't give a damn about Big U. I only knew about Big U. Well, I knew about him, but because Wack was beefing with the nigga or talking about him for 2-3 years, that's why I cared about him. So now we really only still care about Big U when there is a Wack element. This is why people, when the indictment came out, they went to some supposed confrontation that he had with Wack. You want to see that. And that's why I say I think Wack probably, I can't tell him what to do, recuse himself from especially all of these updates about this story. Because again, to clarify, I don't think Wack the police. I asked the question. I'll give you a little bit more details about it because I did do it on the pod today. That dropped today with me and Vlad. The police came to me. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I'm at Complex, and the guys downstairs, we have a front desk, whatever. I usually hang out a couple minutes late sometimes, but not all the time because we have a car that picks us up exactly after the show is done. We can leave exactly then. Our HR guy at Complex comes to me and says, hey, could I talk to you for a minute? I said, what's up? He said, let me talk to you in one of these like breakout private rooms. I said, okay, all right, cool. I go in there and he says, is everything good? I said, yeah, what's up? What's going on? He said, the feds are downstairs for you. I'm at Complex. I'm like, first of all, how does Complex know my schedule like this? It's like, no, not how did the feds know my damn schedule like this? Anyway, they said, what do you want us to do? We got him down. We got the feds downstairs. I'm going to say the guy's name. Basically, almost there to tell me, if needed, we could get you out of this goddamn building without bringing you downstairs. Okay? If we need to. I'm telling them, listen, I have no idea why the feds would want to speak to me. I don't do anything that's wrong. I don't commit criminal activities. I've not been associated with no criminal activities. That's just what it is. They said, well, what do you want us to do? I said, well, did they say what they want? He said they want to speak to you. I said, okay, that's fine. They said, listen, this is what we're going to do. You stay here. We're going to make sure they don't have, which, again, Complex has no fucking clue. We're going to make sure that it's not like an arrest warrant, nothing like that. If they just want to speak to you, we'll bring them up here and put y'all in some room and y'all could, even though they said, do you need a lawyer? Because this is the feds. By the way, I'm telling you everything that happened to me. That's why when I'm commenting on Adam, and even when I'm bringing up Wack, because I look at Wack as a media personality, all that gangster stuff, that's cool. But Wack is on Clubhouse every day doing media. That's not gangster work. That's media work. So I'm using my example. The feds come up. We go in this room. It's an all glass room. I'm sitting there with 3 dudes. And I don't know what this is about. They said, hey, listen, they said, listen, just to let you know, first thing that comes out of their mouth, just to let you know, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. But we do believe you have some things that we need. Now, they then said, we're going to be in contact, but this is our way to let you know, to engage you that whatever. I am shitting bricks. I have no idea what's going on. Okay. By the way, at this time, 6ix9ine's locked up. So that indictment came down. 6ix9ine's already locked up. This is probably a month after. I'm going to be honest. It's like a month after. I get a lawyer. My lawyer hits them up and said, hey, I represent Akademiks. There's no more need for you guys to reach out to him. Reach out to me. I represent Akademiks. They said, well, we don't have a subpoena for him, but we do believe he's in control of some material items to our investigation. It was then communicated because they went back and forth a bit because I hired the lawyer to figure out what do they want. They're not saying they're arresting me. They're not saying that I have anything. They're actually even leading with, even though that's a typical cop thing, you did nothing wrong. Why are they trying to talk to me? My lawyer comes back and says, hey, Ak, did you post a video on Instagram, this date, blah, 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 and he describes it. I'm like, well, I post mad videos. The next thing they do, because he's communicating with the feds via, I don't know, email, I don't know what the fuck they do. He says, do you know this video? And he sends me a video. It's a download of my Instagram post. Essentially, to make a long story short, they wanted a video they already had. They got it from Instagram. Their whole thing was two reasons, now I've realized. They wanted it without my watermark on it. And then they wanted to know if there was a longer version of the video. Okay? So they wanted the original video, which also to me was a little bit ironic and kind of, because at that point, I knew they had all of 6ix9ine's phones. They said 6ix9ine sent me a video. That's what happened. They say 6ix9ine sent you a video. You posted it. We want the original video. And I'm like, well, you have his phone. Anyway, it's like chain of custody, all type of bullshit. Anyway, that happens. My lawyer says, listen, this is how it's going to go. And you tell me how you want to play it. They're operating nice right now. They don't have to. The next step after this is for them to say, we are going to subpoena you, because there was a superseding indictment that came down later. There's an ongoing grand jury. We're going to go put you on the stand and grill you about whatever and still get the video from you. Now, you pick your poison. You can play hardball with us, delay us a little bit. You already posted a video. We just want it without your watermark. Whatever you got sent, give us that. Or else you're going to be in our grand jury on the fucking stand. We'll cook up the indictment for that. Not indictment, I mean subpoena. Ultimately, my lawyer talked to them, because here's the thing I 100% wanted. I said, listen, I don't want to be no parts in this case. I don't know nothing about no crime that 6ix9ine or anybody else ever did. I don't want to testify versus nobody. I don't want me being on the stand, even though I know number one is a grand jury, which is supposed to be secret. Number two, I don't want to be testifying to, like, by the way, at that point, I was around 6ix9ine, Shotty, and them niggas good amount. I don't want to be testifying about nothing. I don't want to be in this case. Whatever crimes you said these guys committed, go deal with them over there. So my lawyer basically tells him, listen, we're not trying to play hardball, but we have no interest of being in, we have no interest of cooperating in the sense of you're going to hold this grand jury, trying to subpoena me to a grand jury. Okay? They said, well, we could negotiate. And this is exactly how the feds go, bro. I'm telling you. They said, listen, if you come down and answer a few questions with your lawyer, just give us the video. We'll guarantee that you won't be anywhere in the grand jury and subsequently the case. Because again, I did not want to be up in that motherfucker. I don't care what nigga, I ain't do no crime, but still, I don't want, bruh, this is what I'm thinking gang members is killing people too. Boy, was I wrong. Like, yo, if you testify like at all, like you're dead. Even though, again, I don't know nothing about nobody. So anyway, the video we got, they got the video. So they got the original video for me. It was the exact video that was posted. It just didn't have my watermark. And then I go down there to the federal building with my lawyer. And that's what I was trying to tell. I remember I was talking to Flacco on the phone. This is where the spook shit comes. That's especially when, I don't know how criminals do crime. They really don't give a fuck. Well, they doing podcasts up in jail, so they happy with jail. I don't want to be up in jail. Nigga, you know how I got spooked by the feds? Not only that, they showed up, this and so whatever, and they're like, yo, we're just gonna ask you some questions. Your lawyer's here. They had me sign some shit. They were like, yo, listen, this is basically the agreement. You're never gonna be in this case. Okay. They're like, just to let you know. And it's funny because the cop that got deputized, he's like, he brought up something like by my college. He was just like, you're a Rutgers man, huh? And I was like, what the fuck? How you know this shit, nigga? It's like, this is why the feds spooked me, my nigga. They knew everything about me. They just wanted some confirmations. That's it. Like, they knew everything. They didn't ask questions. They were just basically, so like, what did they say to me? They were like, yeah, the first time you and 6ix9ine hung out was this date. And I was like, how the fuck y'all know the exact date? Nigga, they was watching this nigga for so long. They knew every single time I hung out with him. They knew everything. So the question they asked me, they was like, you ever seen 6ix9ine shoot a gun? And I'm like, what the fuck? No. So it was basically like, they asked me like about 7 questions. It was like, nah, I never seen that. You ever seen Shotty with a gun? Nope. You seen 6ix9ine with a gun? Nope. You seen this guy with a gun? Nope. What happened at the studio when y'all hung out? Nigga, we hung out, shit, made a song, left. Right before they like rap, they said, We knew all that. And I was like, what the fuck? This shit just spooked me out because it's like, they did all that to basically said, give us a video we already got. Okay. We're going to ask you some questions, but we're telling you the answers already. And I was just like, yo, you don't want to fuck with the feds, bro. You don't want to fuck with them, bro. So anyway, I say that to say, and by the way, nothing ever came out of that. But I just show you how the feds could spook anybody who's around individuals getting indicted. So when I brought up the thing with Wack, I'm not looking at Wack as this gangster, bro. I'm looking at Wack as this media guy. And I get it. He might not have a video or a recording or whatever, but you never know. Sometimes the police might be like, yo, if Wack be on Clubhouse, whether he's lying or not, or just capping, or Wack be saying he got A, B, C, and D. Yo, bro, you want me to play the content? Like, you never know. So I anticipated that the feds, if they did that to me, now granted, that's Southern District of New York. They play no games. They play no fucking games, right? I don't know who the attorney, the U.S. attorney is in Cali, and I know that's in the Cali district. I don't know how tough they are, but if they went at Adam, right? And I guarantee they didn't hit Adam they probably even hit him with a subpoena, bro. They probably just told him, unless you want us to, they're going to tell you the hardball, easy ball shit. Bro, you know we could go, nigga, they know he's fucking bitches up in the back of that shit at that fucking no jumper spot. Nigga, unless you want us to comb through your building with a fine tooth comb, nigga, you gonna give us that cease and desist, right? Of course he's gonna give it up. Of course. No, you got it, bro. The hell? I ain't got nothing to do with nothing anyway. They probably asked him a couple questions. He don't know nothing. Adam don't know nothing now. Let me tell you this. Only the worst criminal. Let me tell you this. No matter what y'all say about 6ix9ine, 6ix9ine was, he definitely incriminated himself a lot. 6ix9ine was like the Superman version of loose cannon. But I'll definitely say this. One thing he was smart about is that whenever it was time to do crime, be like, all right, Ack, I'm gonna catch you. It's time to go shoot nigga. Nah, he never said that. Well, I'm saying, like, he never did nothing around. Never. He never did nothing around me. He never planned nothing around me. And he understood the assignment like, this is Ack, square guy. Let's not do nothing that might spook him or show him our hands, that if he ever get pulled in, he's over here saying some shit we don't want him to say. Now, granted, ultimately 6ix9ine ended up being that person, but I give him credit for that. So, going back to the Wack situation, that was my outlook then, still is my outlook now. And when Wack called me, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, you know, and honestly, I think maybe his clubhouse room or whoever, like, he was describing to me, because, you know, at first I was like, yo, Wack, what are you talking about? But once he said narrative and I started looking at it, I understand how narratives get formed. Like, because I said, Wack, I never called you the police. Never called you the police. But I also understand, you know, when Adam 22 play dumb, but he knows what's going on. I understand narrative, so I'm like, yo, I get it. Like, niggas is taking our conversation about this big U shit and some of the genuine questions I have to you as whatever narrative they want to fill. And I just want to definitely clear up that was not my intention in terms of casting any aspersion on Wack, even though I think the audience is going to do it regardless. I'm going to be honest with you. And that's why I say I think Wack's a little too close to that situation. He's the most popular name in it. Like, bro, at the end of the day, like, we just listened to some nigga named Del Morrison or whatever. Like, nobody knows this guy. Like, we found about loose cannon through Wack. Like, Brick Baby But maybe, with all due respect to him, he wasn't pulling that much views on No Jumper. Like, he was more interested when he was going at Wack. So, like, of course, a narrative is going to get spawned to include Wack because he's the most popular common denominator among all these guys. So what that narrative is going to make sense? Is Wack next to be indicted? Yeah. That's going to be a narrative. Maybe Wack is the person who set this up. That's going to be the narrative. But just to be clear, man, after speaking to Wack, and I understand narratives because I've been through myself, I don't think that's fair. And to help clarify, I talked to him today, bro. He says police never talked to him. And I actually believe him. They came to me for a video. They came to a video that was already posted. They came to Adam for a cease and desist that they mentioned, that Big U sent. It is what it is. So, I don't know. Somebody say call Wack. I'll call Wack. Do you think he's up? Let me call Wack. Let me see. If he's up, it'll be good. I ain't hear him that upset ever, bro. And it really, it was more upset that I think he was saying to me, this. I said this before I call him. He was just saying, yo, Act, anytime things about you occur and people could take the narrative, because a lot of people don't like you, just like a lot of people don't like me. This is him saying to me. And they could try to use a narrative and run in a negative way. I always steer the narrative back to the positive. But it feels like you're allowing a narrative to run on me, and they're acting like, I think he said like people were saying like I exposed them or something. Like, what the fuck? How I exposed? Like, what I exposed? But I understand narratives. Let me try to call Wack. I don't know if he was. He's in LA though. So it is. It's 2:26. Jesus Christ! I gotta start streaming earlier.
Your call has been forwarded.
All right. No. I want to also call him and let him get his shit off too, because again, with me explaining it, I'm also like, I might not be giving him his just due, because I like my whole demeanor was, yo, Wack, I never said these things about you. Like, whatever y'all say, whatever the narrative is right now about Wack, I've never said it about him. But I understand how people might take those narratives from our conversation. You get what I'm saying? So, I think it's only fair. If he's around, I'll give him a call. If he's around. Does that make sense, chat? And also, another thing too, bro, I never wanted to, I don't want to be the guy who people are like, because I think, I don't know who, but I think people were saying to Wack, like, yo, man, that nigga, you sure act your friend? That nigga snaking you right now. That's not the case. I'm asking him the same way I just told you the story. I don't think it's a big, and again, I tried to tell him that too, but he wasn't here. I said, I just don't think it's a big deal, because I don't think Wack is doing anything nefarious. I think Wack is doing content, selling diapers. But I do understand the feds come calling, or feds will try to come holler at somebody just because they feel you're close to somebody else. You feel what I'm saying? And again, maybe they happen, but I was going off of my situation. That's why I commented on Adam. And yeah. So please, if y'all out there in YouTube land, man, could y'all please stop trolling Wack? Because y'all are making it seem like I'm in cahoots with y'all narratives, and that's not true. no, and yeah, but again, you know, with narratives too, like it's not about necessarily what I say. It's like y'all know how narratives is. You know how narratives is. So what I think is, I think today, I don't know what or who posted what, or I don't know who probably talked to him, but I think he felt like, yo, there's this narrative growing. And by the way, we're both hated, so we're used to people talking shit about each other, shit about us. But when they're talking shit about us, they're not sourcing one of us. Like if someone's saying, yo, Ack's a piece of shit, Ack is blah blah blah, they're not gonna be like, if somebody be like, yo, how you know? Be like, man, look at this shit with Wack. Nah, they're not gonna say that. So when people are saying, yo, whether he's, you know, whatever these narratives are about him, if they're using me to be like, yo, well, yo, you ain't hit that conversation with him and Ack. Remember, Ack kept asking this and he said this. Like, you don't think this is blah blah? Yeah, that's where I'm like, yeah, take me out of the group chat on that one. All right. Anyway, yeah, I just want to try to clear it up. But if he calls back, we'll talk about it. And I want to give him, let's get his piece off. You feel what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Are we done with this big U shit? The big U shit is just like, you know, the only reason why we even care about this big U shit is kind of, and that's why I guess it's like a catch-22. I think Wack is one of the loudest voices in hip hop. He talked about, bro, I don't know nothing about Big U other than what Wack say. Because I guarantee if it was some other niggas, well, I guess no jumper guys, right? Well, Brick Baby and Loose, even though Loose is not no jumper guy. I guess them getting indicted made this like a thing. But like normally, I don't think people give a fuck enough to talk about these things that much. Whatever. Okay. All right, people. Okay. All right. Did y'all hear